All right, I think we're live.
Yes. Hi, guys.
Hey, everyone.
Thank you for coming. So next live stream with Max. Max, introduce yourself, please.
Awesome. So I have been a lifer in Silicon Valley. Have been building startups here for past 20 years. Probably kind of big highlights is I built and sold one gaming startup that is now part of Walt Disney Corporation. Have been VC for a couple of years. I joined one of top tier funds on Sand Hill, Andreessen Horowitz. Have been kind of one of the earliest partners kind of looking at cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin in earlier years. And yeah, most recently building my own startup in crypto security space.
Okay, and my first question, what is the Internet of Money? What is the future?
Well, so it's kind of interesting historical story that if you look at the internet protocols, everybody now know kind of error code 404, page not found. Not many people know that in exactly same extremely old, like 30 years old specification, we have code 402, which is payment required. So the framers of original internet, they envisioned that we will need to have some sort of internet native payments kind of that will connect this all together. Because fundamentally all the advertisement industry, all the ads, banners, etc., it's basically a hack. It's a hack that technology wasn't ready. We had no good tools to implement that code for 402. Kind of so that sort of left a hole in original design of the internet that everybody knew we need a payment rail, but nobody knew how to build it. So it was basically hacked with kind of a whole advertisement system, which created a bunch of extremely bad and toxic defaults on the internet that everything is free, but you need to monetize through ads. So we will bombard you with advertisements and all that bad stuff. So I think for, I would say, kind of technology viewpoint, the best part about cryptocurrencies is that they finally fill that checkbox that has been empty for past 30 years. So here's a native money of the internet. Now you can deploy it in exactly the same way as you deploy all other internet protocols. And I think what we're seeing right now with what we call Internet of Money is we're kind of shifting from that kind of bad historical drag of advertisement revenue, of advertisement-based business model, which, I mean, right now it's looked like ginormous and huge and big, but by no means that size means it's validated. It's just the opposite. That's like cancerous growth on healthy body of the internet. And we're kind of slowly replacing that cancer with far more healthy crypto-based payment rails. It's definitely early in the process, but I think that's that's the trend of Internet of Money. Just basically go in and kind of do payment requiring protocol in any place that deserves it.
And my next question: what do you think about personal data? What is the future of personal data if we talk about blockchain technologies?
Oh, that's
important right now.
Yeah, that's super huge. So I will be a bit contrarian, and I will say, so if you honestly look at your digital data up to, say, well, 5 years ago, maybe 10 years ago, all your digital data is fundamentally worthless because what was the most prized possession up to a few years ago of your personal data? Well, let's say it's your Facebook password. So how much it worth? Well, probably a couple $100. It's like you can basically build a virtual experiment. You can approach some people on the street and say, hey, give me your Facebook password and I will do all sorts of crazy shit with it. I will post like bad pictures. I will post horrible stuff. So I will do all the bad things. But right now, I will give you $500, $1,000, $2,000 for your Facebook password. How much I need to pay to make you accept the deal? And I suspect most of people would have easily given you password for a few $1,000s because they're like, oh, I will just go home, call customer support, change password. Yeah, so that guy will do some damage, but kind of it's cosmetic. It's not important. Same thing with banking passwords. There is lots of safeguards. There is lots of customer service. So again, the worth of these digital secrets up until recently, kind of it ranged between a few hundred to a few $1,000s. But you always had 1-800 line to call. You always had last resort where you're going to and people who fundamentally owned your assets, that's the people who were able to fix it. So to a degree, because you had that customer support, that's why the artifacts of digital data you were holding, they actually didn't worth that much. So now with advent of so now we basically see two trends working in parallel, reinforcing each other. So one is pretty obvious, is all the cryptocurrency, private keys, and all that. So there is direct value. There is no 1-800 line. You have no recourse. If you lost it, it's lost forever. Kind of that's it. So second part is, I think now our lives becoming far more digitized. And kind of all other trends are working in conjunction. So you have Internet of Things, you have proliferation of smart devices at home. And when you look at any of these devices, fundamentally on the end of it, you getting either private key or a password. So you installed smart lock in your house. Like, look at the back panel of your smart lock. Well, that's fundamentally a private key. You installed some kind of software on your kind of, let's say you part of some private unpublished discussion boards that are powered by your identity. Again, that's a private key. So I think as we move forward, as more and more devices and things in real life become absolutely digital, then we kind of going away from this kind of like toy universe that's like, oh, all my digital possession is my Twitter password and Facebook passwords, which are fundamentally worthless. And we're getting into the world that your life is completely digital. Your life is private key to your house. Your life is private key to your car. Your life is some sort of private keys to assets you keep in some sort of digital vault. And yeah, storage of this digital keys is becoming basically equivalent of storage of your digital self, because now, especially after COVID, I think kind of COVID accelerated this trend by at least 10-15 years. Kind of now everybody is locked in their homes, and kind of there is no kind of positive end in sight, at least for next year or two. Most of our interactions and work is shifted online. So I think within a year, we shifted from 80% real world, 20% online. We shifted to 80% online, 20% real world. And everything online, one way or another, will basically end up with private key or some sort of digital certificate. And yeah, so kind of private data is fundamentally, it's becoming you. It's becoming hugely more important than we ever seen it before.
Interesting. How it's worked for the regulatory frameworks in this year? What we should looking for?
Well, I think that,
and maybe like in general.
Yeah, I think, well, the main issue with regulatory framework is, I mean, that's one of the segments where I probably don't have any good news, because it's not like I don't see positive trends. I don't even see solutions leading to positive trends. And I think basically what happened is that, well, I mean, historically, as representative democracy, it is by design. It's not supposed to pass laws and new regulation on turn on a dime. It's kind of, it's part what gives system stability, that we elect representatives, they discuss it, and over the year, some regulations slowly but surely make their way through legislative bodies. So I think what happened is that the speed of technological progress and especially speed of innovation in kind of crypto-oriented fields just skyrocketed absolutely outside of domains that was obviously ever seen on surface on this planet. And the whole system of regulatory kind of rulemaking is like it's not just behind. I mean, I don't think it's even have speeds to catch up to what's happening, because they sort of like and I mean, this is now a canonical story how like tokens are attempted to be regulated with laws written to manage, like, I forget, orchard farms or apricot farms. So it's like mind-boggling how you use an instrument from century ago to regulate something like as cutting page as cryptographically generated tokens. But the issue is that the kind of regulatory body we have, and that's the speed with which these regulatory bodies can basically update the code books. And the answer is, it's like, I basically not seeing any, I will get one kind of potential positive development later, but in truth, it's not that positive. So one example we often quote in Silicon Valley is if you look at current healthcare digital, and you look at the standard in digital healthcare, you will be blown away by how much, like, you're looking like a time capsule. You're looking at time capsule, how computers worked in 70s and 80s. You're looking at these standards encoded in laws that are like coming from like most ancient COBOL system. And why is this happening in healthcare? Well, it's because some good willing people passed some sort of digital laws for healthcare around 70s and 80s. And guess what? That all that body of what was considered cutting edge computer knowledge in 70s and 80s got enshrined into law. And now all these healthcare companies have to basically carry that monkey from 50 years ago on their back because, well, that was the best technology they had when they were passing laws. So I think with crypto regulations, we're probably looking at similar patterns that by the time they get to pass something meaningful, they will basically enshrine something like something relevant to like Bitcoin 1.0. And kind of it would be as kind of embarrassing as kind of all these cabal regulations in healthcare. So I think pretty much the only rational course of action for most people right now is just look around the world for jurisdictions that are less encumbered, because all this legacy encumbers with laws and regulations that stop you from innovating. Nobody going to fix it for you. Nobody. It's not like nobody cares. They might even care inside, but they simply have no mechanisms to fix it fast enough. And it probably will kill lots of innovation in countries that are basically not agile enough to adjust the regulation. And here is some advantage of small countries, because small countries generally can innovate far faster. It's like great example is kind of Estonian digital passport, is something they're doing in South Korea, kind of, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, so I think it's simply kind of, as always, in this situation, exit to Gulch is the best option, and new companies will just look for jurisdictions that actually allow them to innovate. And bigger Western democracies will have to catch up. It's a big problem with no clear solution right now.
And my next question about finance industry. What is the next for the banking system in global as well? Because right now it's look like the COVID crisis, and it should be like the dramatically change for the people.
Well, I think there are two stories kind of going in parallel and almost independent from each other. So one is definitely what's happening in DeFi space, which is sort of attempt to recreate banking industry from the grounds up using purely crypto tool. And of course, it's doing like its first tethering steps kind of in that direction. banking, I think it's kind of an interesting position. So like regulations that kind of showed up a couple of weeks ago that banks can now take custody of crypto keys. I think it's a hugely beneficial steps for banks, because otherwise they had the risk of being completely left behind. So it's like your regulation doesn't matter at all because your stack is simply not going to be used in the future. It's like you're not just COBOL, you're like COBOL that is like disconnected from reality. So that at least allows them to get connected back to reality of modern fintech. But over longer term, I think it's kind of the same pattern going to play out, because banks have so many legacy regulations, they have so many legacy rules they have follow, and the issue with these rules is not even the regressive tax of following them. It's bad enough, but it's doable. The issue is these rules formulated like 100 and 200 years ago, they pretty much make no synthetic sense in lots of crypto industries. So so banks are kind of will be caught between kind of hammer and a plate, that like if they go deeper into crypto, they breaking these rules. If they don't go to crypto, they completely missing out of upcoming DeFi wave. And of course, some smart like small nimble startups probably kind of incorporated in some Asian tigers or London or some other friendly locale. They're just going to run circles around this ancient banking industry, outcompete them in any way, and basically kind of eventually just redirect financial flows to themselves, because they will have the stuff that works, that is instant, that has no fees, that 10 times better to use. Yeah, so I think we basically, yeah, we're looking like it will be unfolding within like 10, 20 years, but I think we will see like Google versus newspaper play out exactly the same way. We just, at this point, we don't know who that Google is.
And what is like the next big thing for the digital assets? What do you think? Like,
well, yeah, everything is becoming digital assets. So I think that's another way for
maybe like what startups are looking for right now in this third, like the new digital assets.
I think the kind of bigger trend is everybody will be looking what is valuable, what is protected by kind of legacy mechanisms, and try to find a way to digitize it. Try to find a way. It's like, hey, you have all these middlemen either making fees or simply rent seeking. So there is lots of this kind of crust that doesn't add that much objective value, but it's there for traditional reasons. And of course, any company can come in and say, well, you know what, we will like eliminate 90% of that crust, take 10% kind of as our margin, and provide you with extremely like smooth, easy to use, completely digital service that you can do kind of anything kind of without leaving your house, which is kind of extremely important in post-COVID world. So yeah, so I mean, I think these verticals are kind of obvious. It's like people will digitize house titles, people will digitize car titles, like anything with a title will be digitized, anything that has an assets will be digitized. The devil will be in details, because every startup will have a little bit different magic, how they approach that kind of digital process. Every startup will kind of have different on-off ramps into real world. And yeah, I think it will be highly specific solution for every industry. So yeah, so somebody will like, oh, we have like 50 people on staff in every state that will just go to county records and pull something out or put something in. Somebody will go all digital. But yeah, end of the day, at some point we will see it's like, you know, like water is boiling, then it becomes steam. So we're going to see same process with digital assets. So everything is still paper, then boom, suddenly everything becomes digital, and like we look at paper as fax machines.
Tell me something what interested you about crypto. What is the difference between the crypto community and like the blockchain enthusiasts and blockchain technology guys?
Well, I think, blockchain is more like computer science. Crypto is more like applied science. So think about crypto is just engineering of the blockchain. So people who come up with new blockchains, they're kind of closer to scientist type. I think it's, it's basically kind of new industry. Is kind of, we can think about this as computer science 2.0. So kind of you have kind of everything we have in kind of mainstream computer science, it's now being replicated in crypto space. So you have pure scientists, you have more research-oriented companies, you have applied companies that build specific products. Finally, you have just kind of effectively crypto user, both like individuals and businesses, who just like you say, oh, I will download website and run it. So I mean, you're not becoming a web startup just because you deploy the website. So, but you can leverage that technology. So same way, if you download some crypto stack and crypto rails, that doesn't immediately make you a crypto startup, but you can benefit from amazing amount of kind of knowledge and code already written in that industry. So kind of, yeah, I think there is no one size fit all answer. It's we're kind of going through big bang stage. It's kind of everything is exploding, kind of lots of interesting stuff going in all directions. And yeah, it's kind of, it's the next frontier right now.
Okay, but how you can explain your grandmom what is like the Ethereum? What is like the CryptoKitties?
Well, Ethereum is one thing, CryptoKitties are another thing.
No, but how you can explain what is, because I mean, the Bitcoin, but what is the difference?
Well, I would say like simplest consumer explanation, I would say Bitcoin is right now is digital gold. That's your kind of possession that is impossible to dilute at kind of as kind of world currencies and world economies go through inflation. Kind of Bitcoin is your hedge against deflation. And by extension, as one of my friends likes to say, Bitcoin is insurance against politicians, because fundamentally all deflation, like main deflation drivers is politician errors. It's like they make an error, they like, oh, we will print money and fix our own error. So if you want to buy insurance against political errors in your country, Bitcoin is the best tool to buy that insurance. Like Ethereum is different. Ethereum is platform for smart contracts. And smart contracts is basically digital contracts that doesn't require any paper. Is like how you digitize rules and relationship on the blockchain, which lets you solve lots of other interesting cases that not that much connected like Bitcoin to permanent store of value, but let you do lots of other kind of interesting stuff. Kind of, and then as you go, so I mean, Bitcoin and Ethereum is definitely the main ones right now and most proven ones. Kind of as you go to other blockchains, you get into more and more experimental ones, kind of which are sort of like, hey, that's interesting experiment. We don't yet know if there is user base massive enough to be interested in that blockchain. But nonetheless, every blockchain has its own specific, has its own kind of domain it's trying to solve. And that's when it gets closer from like practical deployments to experimental research.
Let's move to the liquidity flow. What's going on then the traditional capital enter into the capital market?
Well, I assume you mean entering crypto markets.
But how it's work for the traditional capital?
I think for like it's kind of both. It's both traditional capital and consumer, especially kind of millennial consumer. Fundamentally, everybody looking for growth, and growth in traditional sector, like I wouldn't say tapped out, but it's definitely slowed down. So it's we kind of my old boss Mark Andreessen had that perfect phrase about 10 years ago, that software is eating the world, and software ate the world and created immense amount of value in the process of doing so. But this kind of hockey stick level of growth of kind of software eating process, it basically kind of behind us. You need to find a new driver. You need to find a new source of hockey sticks that will unlock so much value. And I think lots of people, both traditional capital and smart consumers, they basically looking at crypto as source of this like future hockey stick growth. I think system is kind of tricky. So one thing where it a little bit breaks down, in my view, is it's like one of the cases when you have something so good that it becomes so bad. So last cycle, like, what was your options? Your options were like, well, you can invest, say, you can go to AngelList and invest into Uber early. You can go to stock market and invest in early Google or Facebook. But in every case, companies were mostly built out. So you like, you still had some investment risk, but you were investing into going business. Now, crypto markets, for obvious reasons, are like super liquidity on steroids. It is like everything is liquid, not even before it's built. Sometimes it's liquid even before companies are formed. And I think that creates a little bit of anti-pattern, that so many things kind of are so promising that people kind of pile into the train. It's like, oh, this train definitely going to leave the station. That's like, that's awesome. Before train is even built. And that creates some sort of weird situations when it's like, oh, wait, why we like, what's the point of building the train if it's already overpriced, like 20 years into the future, like of all the future kind of profits? So kind of, and it creates this kind of very unstable zigzag cycle that everybody piles in, everybody piles out, that creates inherited instability. So I would watch for that. That super liquidity creates some very kind of, and of course in turn that leads to second derivative effects, that it's like people no longer like looking, oh, what's the best project to fund, and people start playing Keynesian beauty context, like, oh, what people will think that people want to fund, so I will get in early, sell first, and kind of just speculate on expectation without any concerns. Can such project can be built, what value it provides, and kind of, and all that. So kind of, and that's obviously like, if it sounds eerie similar to 2008, 2009 financial crisis, it definitely is. So that I would say it's like one of kind of dark spots currently on horizon of crypto, that kind of super liquidity leads to some undesirable outcomes. Yeah, but other than that, if you put this kind of toxic speculation aside, I think, yeah, lots of old money just looking at this and it's like, hey, that's next innovation frontier. If there are any healthy, like value-based hockey stick coming out of this domain, kind of, it probably will be in crypto industry. So how we can position ourselves and our money to benefit from that future growth.
What is your favorite cryptocurrency?
I'm still, well, you know, it's a bit hard to say.
Look at the price Bitcoin today.
Say again?
Look at the price of the Bitcoin today.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, Bitcoin. Well, I mean, for old timers, this kind of daily spikes is nothing new. That's like, that's what we've seen for past 10 years quite a lot. Yeah, I say my
Bitcoin or Ethereum. What is your trading strategy?
Yeah, I personally kind of, I would say in terms of favorites, I split between kind of Bitcoin as grandfather of it all. So Bitcoin is it's like Bitcoin team done so many things so right. It's like it's creating the software, it's figuring out peer-to-peer systems. So there is like mind-blowing technological achievements. and equally mind-blowing, I would say, social achievements. So kind of like stepping out from the limelight early on, not kind of becoming like centralized guru oracle of that space and just letting community do everything after that. So yeah, so I think in terms of kind of Zeus type of figure, it's definitely kind of Bitcoin and Bitcoin early team. But I think in sense of pure innovation perspective, in sense of where action is today, is definitely Ethereum, since yeah, Vitalik is freaking genius. Kind of that is kind of the playground of computer science 2.0. So to figure out kind of, and basically, yeah, it's like with any computer language. Once you understand Ethereum smart contracts, you can understand any similar blockchains, any similar language. You can work in any domain. But yeah, just like old school, like every old school developer always knows C language. Is like you cannot go anywhere without knowing C, because once you learn C, you learn all the derivatives. So I think today kind of Ethereum is in similar place. Once you learn Ethereum, you learned everything else. So that would be like my kind of strong second favorite.
Okay, maybe because you know who's Satoshi.
You know, maybe I know, maybe I do not. It's the proof is too hard to compute.
Okay, what is like the main concern with trust? How it's worked for the securing digital assets? Why it's so important? What is like the main idea of the trust?
Yeah, it's kind of, yeah, there is old text kind of floating in crypto circles called trusted source party source of all security holes, or something along these lines. Yeah, so I think the issue is that as we look at traditional industries, we always delegated trust. It's like in traditional industry, nothing worked without trusting somebody, and it's so enshrined into the process that we just call them specific titles. We say, oh, we like these are lawyers, they're doing this type of things, we trust them with, and these are title companies, and this is our bank. So it's all about delegation of trust. And of course, the delegation of trust, that was basically historical hack, because our technological tools was so weak that without this kind of constant delegation, nothing worked. And one way to look at this, that you basically look at all these people in banks, in legal firms, as wetware. So it's like we implementing software via humans, and so you need some body of humans to provide you with that trust. What's changing right now is effectively we're looking at how we can replace all these legacy systems of trust with completely crypto-based analog. So in other words, we're finally starting conversion from wetware, how we take a building of hardworking, smart, like 100 smart humans, and replace it with something else. And that could be, maybe it's a kind of blockchain with some specific, maybe it's extremely smart contract, something else. But the main part is you can stop delegating your personal trust to that many other parties, and you can basically limit your delegation. And fundamentally, I think it's an inescapable trend, because as long as you have organizations you dedicate trust to, you will live in a very heavily centralized world. And heavily centralized world is extremely bad, because like it's much more prone to authoritarian regimes, it's much more prone to government abuse. If everything is centralized, it makes it very easy to control. So it kind of like constant temptation for bad actors to position themselves closer to the centralized nodes of trust and control. And a result is what we're seeing. You just having like worse governance, you having worse financial policies, everything becomes worse. Once your population becomes more peer-to-peer, it becomes more decentralized, it basically forcing function of honesty on all participants in the system. It's like, hey, you no longer can use this centralized hacks. You have to play by the rules. It's like same rules for everybody, because you don't have this big control level kind of at some sort of central corporation or central bank or whatever that place is. So yeah, so I think it's kind of we're going to switch more to peer-to-peer decentralized system where trust is no longer delegated. It's more effortful. It requires more education from users. That's why that's going relatively slow. So I mean, it's still going, but kind of on the world level, it's still kind of small percentage points. Yeah, but I think that's basically current vector. It's every place where trust is delegated into some sort of centralized kind of a recipient that put it on his shingle, like, yes, please trust me, we're 300 years in business, we have our reputation to protect. That's exactly the target rich environments for crypto startups to replace.
Yeah, it's all about crypto startups. Actually, my guys have a question for you. What do you think about Telegram and what's going on with Ton?
Well, I mean, it's I'm obviously pretty sympathetic to Durov because I think he tried very smart thing, very interesting things, and that's exactly the result where kind of regulators and it's kind of like perfect nightmare stories. This is like you cannot imagine better like nightmare on Elephant Street scenario, because you have extremely successful product, extremely powerful crypto stories going extremely against like the grain of United States financial and security regulations. And to make matter even worse, it's of course founder is Russian, company is incorporated someplace else. So kind of if you need to basically kind of build a boogeyman for American regulator, Pavel Telegram, it was like perfect. It's like the only thing missing is like razor hands. But yeah, to be fair, it's there is like law of preservation of stupidity. So Facebook Libra was shut down in pretty much same way. So it's not so much racial bias against Russian, although that definitely exists. But besides racial bias, I think that's overall just bias against crypto innovation. It's just kind of, as one of popular internet cartoons says, like when you try to sell Meteor to the dinosaur, you're going to fail your sale and you're going to irritate the heck out of dinosaur. So all these crypto companies kind of going through legacy regulation. In lots of cases, that is the attempt to sell Meteor to dinosaur. Kind of it's kind of like it's not working that well so far. Kind of as we've seen even on Facebook example, but. Yeah, basically back to Durov proposal, I think it was brilliant, and it was one of the healthiest kind of ICO because he has product, he has, I forget what, 100 millions of users now. He's basically saying, I will give everybody on my app trivial payment rails that is completely native, completely digital. You don't have to like live in country when there is a credit card. You don't have to have bank account, credit card account. Just by fact of having my app, you're already part of financial ecosystem with 100 million users in it. So in other words, it's like imagine some kid in India can write some sort of sticker pack on Telegram and say, hey, anybody who downloads my sticker pack will earn like whatever, 5 grams, 10 grams, whatever meaningful currency is. And that's it, just like that in 1 second. He's like, within 2 hours, that kid has business in developing countries that earns him money. And fundamentally, Libra was kind of the same way, with only difference it's kind of instead of a few hundred millions people, it would be 1.5 billion people. Yeah, and we basically run smack into the same issue that because Facebook is centralized, Telegram is centralized. That's exactly the weak point, and that's the point that regulator attacked. And yeah, world is right now kind of not that much better place. It's like all these vectors of innovations and kind of financial freedoms are currently shut down. But I don't think not for long. It just kind of it will be routed around this with some sort of peer-to-peer solutions that kind of give people the same freedom, but does not expose that kind of central spot that has all these legal responsibilities. Because the issue is like you can say, well, kind of all you people who use this peer-to-peer system, hey, follow your local laws. It's not that hard. And here's what you should keep in mind. Once you have the central spot like Telegram and Facebook, that central spot becomes a point of attack. Then like central spot, oh, now you are responsible for behavior of your millions people. Now you will be the nanny for this 100 million people. And then of course it's super hard, especially when you have regulations that are like centuries old that has nothing to do with crypto. And it's literally following these regulations is Sisyphean labor that you can never succeed. So we'll see how it's developed. Yeah, I was rooting for Pavel. I was rooting for Zook with Libra. And I think like if either one of them would have succeeded, it would have been like massively beneficial event for all of the crypto. But yet again, yeah, crypto is a honey badger. We just keep moving forward. We'll just route around it and find another solution.
Okay, thank you for sharing this. What do you see as the single most important technology, trend, or maybe development something? What is going to impact us during COVID? And how it's work for the blockchain for the gods, something like for the social, for the community?
Yeah, I think crypto and blockchain are not direct beneficiaries. They are huge secondary beneficiaries because, yeah, what's going on with COVID is like, yes, everybody is forced to kind of work from home. Everything that we had in analog world now will become digital world. So people are just building, like digitizing pretty much every process, which you're already seeing. We digitizing like doctor visits and yoga classes and community meetups and kind of anything you can imagine is like people trying to find what's a digital analogy that kind of gives you at least some placeholder or better experience for that things that we used to do in real life. But now back to my kind of original point, the holy like internet HTTP code 442 payment required. Crypto is the native money of online world. No, anything you do online, one way or another, will touch crypto. Will like either they will use payment rail or they will use crypto uniqueness properties, crypto storage properties. There is something to be gained from adding crypto to all the new online projects being built right now. Yeah, so I think on second derivative level, it's like once these post-COVID online projects go live, crypto probably get another spurt of growth because all those projects will kind of connect to crypto rails one way or another.
Let's talk about crypto exchanges. What is the difference with normal exchanges? And like it was really great strategy and business model. We talk about Binance.
Well, I think we'll see what happens. I personally think that exchanges were a little bit of bridging technology. So we needed exchanges when things were kind of relatively primitive. But I think what we sort of find out over past few years is that there is very few exchanges that actually kind of add value. So it's definitely Binance is one of them, but pretty much like Binance, Coinbase, and kind of I would struggle just from my memory to remember other exchanges that kind of have similar value, like level of value add. Because at the root, actually, as funny as it sounds, all crypto exchanges business model are extremely non-crypto model, because their model is we connect you to world of fiat, and we kind of inherit all the issues of fiat world, which is yet again, it's like regulations and keeping customer accounts and centralization and all that. And I think part of current wave of DeFi that happening right now with kind of similar to Uniswap is that we see that lots of core values of exchanges, like while people using exchanges today, actually can be replaced by a few lines of smart contract, and you kind of different lines give you different exchange profile. Yeah, so I personally think that exchanges are probably like strategically over long term, they are on way out. They may remain at some sort of on-ramp for new users as like educational portals. But once like more DeFi tools kind of will be built, and of course it's all open source that like anybody can deploy them, anybody can use them. So we're going to switch from, again, few giant centralized exchanges to basically peer-to-peer network of this kind of effectively crypto system spread out between kind of thousands of actors that gives you all the same capabilities that you have on exchanges today. But on top of that, you will get a ton of capabilities that are just impossible to implement on centralized exchanges today. And yes, that's probably going to be the way of the future.
Interesting. And my favorite question about scammers and post-ICOs. How it could change the future of the venture capital? And maybe it should be hybrid capital or like the crypto hedge funds.
I think so. I think we definitely seen the big wave.
Because I remember it's called the mix, but then the tokenize something plus venture capital and equity.
So I think during 2017, this was like biggest talk about how tokens and ICOs can replace venture capital. And I think there was like two narratives that kind of a little bit counteracted each other. So one is extremely healthy and long-term, like awesome narrative about like real venture capital like properties that tokenization gives you. But then we run into exactly the same issue I was talking earlier about super liquidity giving like leading to toxic outcomes, because yeah, the issue is in venture capital world, there was never such a thing that projects like goes and say, oh, I effectively pre-funded all my 10 years future revenue with these tokens. So now must kind of like the best case scenario is I can basically implement what I already got. So, and that of course creates all sort of weird and perverse incentives for everybody, for early investors, for project organizers, etc. So I think we have not found a good solution for that yet. So how to prevent this extreme kind of outcomes. But if you put this kind of unsolved problem aside, the root of this is you effectively like tokenization is basically the most kind of democratic influence on VC industry kind of over past like 50 years. Because fundamentally what it says is now just like, well, we're kind of seeing a very weak form of this on Kickstarter, because fundamentally what Kickstarter is, it's saying we will pitch public what we want to build, public gives us money, kind of effectively pre-sales to build that, and we build it, and that means we formed profitable company. Now the downside of Kickstarter approach is that public commits were effectively records in some private company database that had absolutely no intrinsic value. So it's like, yeah, I gave $100 to this project. Besides Kickstarter, nobody cares kind of at all about that database record. So now if you replace Kickstarter with tokens, now you're basically getting all the same benefit, but now everybody gets cryptographically unique, unforgeable permanent record. Yes, I participated in that project. Here's my crypto signature. And that's exactly how I contribute to this project. So it's far, far better technological stack kind of to build this kind of projects. So I think right now it's a little bit slowed down because nobody found kind of like anti-toxin kind of versus this earlier kind of Keynesian beauty contest games that people pile in into promising projects so fast that early investor basically has no reason to stay in the project and to see it through, and kind of because they can just kind of sell to newcomers a few months later, and that in turn leads to the whole toxic cycle. That means you don't get high quality investors, you get like just speculators or parasite investors who only intended to like dump the tokens as soon as possible, and then in turn means they no longer select the projects. There is no wisdom of the crowd that if projects getting funded, it doesn't mean it's a good project. It just means there is lots of speculators piling in. So all that stack of problems have not been solved yet. And I think once we find some solution to that, once we figure out, so what is really tokenized venture capital 2.0, that needs to answer all these questions, that would be massively disruptive event, because in this case, all traditional VC capitals like Silicon Valley, New York, like kind of after COVID, location ceases to have that much meaning. So we already kind of pushed everything that there is no in-person meeting. It's like person taking meeting in person in Silicon Valley doesn't have any advantage anymore because there is no in-person meetings. So, but the second part, when you tokenize venture capital fundraise, that pretty much opens up the whole planet to like everything, to both fund products they want and consume products they want, especially if products are digital. So, event going to be like absolutely massive, but basically you need to figure out how to protect against externalities of this super aggressive early liquidity.
What do you think? What is the big picture for the special rules and governments for the capital markets, but without the middlemen? Well, but it should be for the post-COVID economy.
Well, it's hard for me to say, because I think next gen DeFi crypto financial markets going to evolve so fast that all the world governments definitely going to be playing catch up kind of far later in the game than they used to. So it will be very interesting because there is no precedent. It's governments and authorities are very good regulating centralized industries, because they have like here's the key players, we regulate you, and by regulating you, we regulate the whole industry. If industry becomes truly peer-to-peer and decentralized, lots of governments will have to find a new playbook. They will have to just kind of approach it differently. But in turn, I don't think it's going to be it's definitely a solvable problem, because by that time we get there, lots of these government bodies will be actually compromised from millennials who kind of grew up with crypto. For them, crypto is like as basic as the internet. So it's like, yeah, we kind of, when we get to the world is government of millennials for millennials by millennials, lots of these issues kind of will be solved in common sense way, because governments will be finally run by kind of crypto native and internet native citizens who understand how it really works. Because big part of the current problem of generational gap is that people who run in government simply do not understand basics how it works.
Interesting. I have a question about different protocols. And like most important thing, how it works for the scalability. For example, what is the difference between Ethereum and EOS, Monero, Stellar? What is the difference between the different technologies and cybersecurity too?
I think high order bit here is definitely scalability, because yeah, if you want to find Achilles heel of crypto today, is definitely scalability. So everything else is in great shape. The only place where we don't have kind of great shape is scalability. And there is so there are some initiatives how to solve scalability on Ethereum itself. There are some blockchains that attempting to solve scalability issues. I think jury is still out. We still don't know the final answer. That's that's one of the hard that's not the final boss, but that's definitely one of kind of mid-level bosses of this game. So we definitely have to beat scalability boss to progress further in crypto game. So we'll see. Lots of smart people working on this. I think that's kind of work has been going on kind of on very fast clip for past 2 years. So sooner or later, somebody will have a breakthrough, and kind of maybe we'll get a breakthrough. Maybe it's kind of incremental improvements by some blockchain team. So we'll see. Yeah, it's definitely a burning problem right now.
What is your favorite blockchain entrepreneur or maybe team? And what is the difference between the blockchain entrepreneurship and crypto entrepreneurs, and plus like the traditional guys from maybe commerce, media? What is the difference?
Yeah, definitely it's hard to kind of besides Satoshi team, like it's kind of obviously everybody's second pick probably will be Vitalik, because that was absolutely stone cold brilliant things to figuring out kind of like the need for smart, like effectively smart contract based Bitcoin. Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to kind of pinpoint like, hey, this is kind of this is blockchain entrepreneur, this is a regular entrepreneur. My personal thing is, I think part of reason we see such disproportionate number of people in blockchain ecosystem coming from kind of ex-Soviet republics, coming from ex-Soviet Union. So you see lots of Ukrainians, lots of Russians, lots of other republics. I think part of reason is because everybody who lived through crash of Soviet Union knows in his bones how fake monetary system is. When you see one monetary system fail in front of your eyes and realize like, hey, all your like family savings of your parents' savings, they're just big bunch of colored papers that has no intrinsic value, and no matter how many general secretaries of communist parties they paint on these pieces of paper, it's still worthless. And the market forces that make these pieces of paper worthless are far more powerful than any local government authority to persuade you that these pictures of communist secretaries worth anything. I think that's kind of creates such a lasting imprint on people's childhood that they start thinking a little bit outside of the matrix. They kind of they effectively like were forced given the red pill in their childhood, and that makes them very well positioned to understand to kind of understand blockchain based business model, crypto business model, since they never look at current financial system as a given, as some sort of dogmatic like act of God that it always will be this way and always was this way. They look at this, yeah, well, some guys printed some colored communist. It's like no big deal. We will print another ones on different type of digital paper.
Okay, what is the top 5 venture capital funds who are really great in blockchain and emerging technologies?
Yeah, I kind of don't want to pick between the children. So yeah, obviously, I mean, I have to go with Andreessen as number one.
Why?
Well, they are really great. What can I say? That's why I pick them, because they are really great. Yeah, but I think it's a bit, remember that line in Matrix that everybody in crypto likes to quote is like, hey, doesn't mean I can dodge bullets. Like, no, Neo, when you're ready, you don't have to. So I will kind of go Morpheus on you and say, it's Manana, when you're ready, you don't have to pick best top 5 venture capital funds because you don't have to. You will be in crypto and DeFi. Top 5 venture capital funds wouldn't matter.
Okay. What does it mean, like the decentralized marketplace?
Well, it's literally exactly in the name. It's a market.
How we can use marketplace after the COVID?
I think
like in past cases.
Well, I think the root of this is centralized anything, centralized marketplace, centralized exchange, centralized like social network. Centralized is always easy. Centralized is much easier to write, and that's part of my kind of massive respect for Team Satoshi, that unless you try to write some peer-to-peer software, you never understand how gargantuan task is to write practical decentralized peer-to-peer system. And because of that hardship, we're kind of behind replacing everything with decentralized alternative, because I think in every vertical somebody will need to find kind of a life hack of how to make it practical, how to make it work. But one by one, we will going to see, yeah, everything is, well, like, let's put it this way, writing decentralized peer-to-peer Amazon is freaking hard. And Amazon has so many advantages in everything that it's not even funny to think about this problem. But at the same time, it's kind of obvious that if somebody figures out how to do practical, scalable peer-to-peer Amazon, it's kind of like pretty much 90% of issues we're talking about in the press is like, oh, Amazon's kind of suppresses small merchant, Amazon just steals product ideas from the small merchants. So everything negative about Amazon will just go away, and everything positive will stay and probably will work even better. So rewards are pretty high to figure it out. Honestly, I think Amazon will be one of the hardest challenges. It's probably the most hard decentralized challenge. We probably will start with decentralized news, decentralized social network with all the lightweight stuff. But kind of it's getting there, because crypto kind of gave us sort of TCP/IP protocol of decentralization. So we have low-level packets. Now we need to figure out how to combine those packets into products. And kind of like step by step go and finish this decentralization push.
Okay. And I have a question about trends for the cryptocurrency. What should be like the top 5? And it's same for the blockchain. Top 5 trends.
I will stick with classics, because I think the only, how to say, the only kind of workman everyday currencies right now is Bitcoin and Ethereum. Everything else has become more like speculation, more like a bet on specific ideology. And kind of, and that's the beauty of decentralization. I'm not going to make that bet for you guys. It's you decide for yourself. You kind of research, do the legwork, make your opinion, and that's your decision. That's not my decision. My decision is to say, I think by now, both Bitcoin and Ethereum are very mature protocols, very mature currencies, each one with its own kind of specific focus. Kind of anything outside of these two, it's basically your kind of your personal decision as free citizens of the world. Is like, do your research, make your decision, and keep in mind you might be terribly wrong and you're going to lose whatever you invested in that currency.
Okay, let's move to the general questions. What do you think, what is the next investment trends beyond like next 15 years? Maybe it should be in machine learning, or maybe DR, green tech, energy.
Well, I think, yeah, so GPT-3 has shown kind of great progress in kind of technical, word language AI. So yeah, personally, what I'm personally looking for, because remember my background was in gaming company, so I kind of have some technical, some creative side. Is I personally
have special questions for the gaming.
Sorry, say again.
No, like there are special questions for the gaming. Let's talk about traditional. Traditional technologies like the DRR, IE, and plus robotics.
What I'm personally looking for is, so on one hand, we have GPT-3 that will become GPT-4, GPT-5, etc. So textual generation will get better and better. We already have, I think the spec called deep face or something similar. So we have this neural net ways to produce sort of any face doing anything on any person, which is also great. And I think that within 10 years, we probably will get enough technological components to finally completely decentralized Hollywood. So yeah, so it's not Silicon Valley, Sand Hill VCs that are going to get decentralized. Hollywood going to get decentralized same way, because pretty much what you're going to do is like you're going to say, oh, like take top 200, top 1,000, top grossing movies of all times, run them through these face learning and speech learning algorithms. If you specifically like any actor, like run all his public interviews through these algorithms, boom, you have yourself AI model of all your favorite Hollywood stars. And keep in mind that doesn't mean that these stars are still alive. So it's like you like Carrie Fisher, boom, you have your digital AI version of Carrie Fisher. You like Clark Gable, you will have your digital version of Clark Gable. Then any person on the planet can basically make his own movie with its own dialogue. And what do you know? Maybe it's Carrie Fisher and Clark Gable playing in the same movie and kind of set in whatever scenario settings you want, because everything is generated by AI. Naturally, it's going to give you like immense explosion of content. So content will go into millions, tens of millions. That's exactly where kind of crypto payments, micro payments, digital rights will become super important. That like, oh, I make this funny skit with Carrie Fisher and Clark Gable. Nobody cares for a couple years, and then boom, it's like it becomes a meme. It skyrockets. But hey, you know what? Like, if you want to see the full clip, you need to pay me through crypto to get private key for rest of the clip. So I think it's kind of going to kind of get into this conglomerate that everybody is movie producer, everybody is journalist, everybody is podcaster, everybody is a blogger. Amount of content will kind of just be stratospheric.
How it works for the actually fake news?
Oh, same way. Yeah, you will. No, I think the killer product right now, it's just like you can use AI to generate fake news. Now you will need AI to read all the news and surface to you only the ones that are not fake. And yeah, so it basically will be AI war, kind of back and forth. But again, it's like, well, what you consider not fake news, how you learn some new stuff. So you have some personal preference metrics that your AI learn, and kind of maybe it's interactive. Maybe you're like, well, I kind of believe in global warming, but I don't believe it's that much as any average green snowflake. I want kind of more scientific data about global warming. So here's what I consider fake and what fake. And this slider will be very different for every person in every vertical. So here we go back to your kind of private key. That's like, that's my private key that protects really my true beliefs. But I only share the private key with my AI. That's like, even my wife doesn't know the private keys. That's my personal digital self. Yeah, so I think we're getting into kind of this golden age where we will have so awesome content, because again, it's instead of just one valley in LA producing all the content, now we will have whole planet producing content. And again, it will be a lot of garbage, but that's where kind of filtering will come in. So you will get best content will get surfaced. Best kind of think about some kid in Mumbai who just got first couple clips made so well that he gets following on YouTube. Then he fundraise his next AI movie through the token, collects money to basically spend 6 months doing all the number crunching and renting Amazon AI servers to do all the number crunch for his movie, and then produces some brilliant kind of movie with like live actors, long dead actors, some crazy setting, and imagine you will see like thousands of these movies every year, and you're like, oh yeah, like I will watch this for a bit, so I watched it for 30 minutes. So that's mean kind of I paid for this with 30 Satoshi for this 30 minutes. Kind of. It's like, yeah, it's like kind of you open your browser, yeah, that was funny clip, I will pay you for 5 seconds. It's all integrated on your viewer browser level. Kind of you basically, every browser has a wallet. So I think Brave browser is brilliant. It's like showing us wave to the future that every browser should come with integrated wallet. Yeah, so it will be exciting. It will be the golden age, unless we.
What is your favorite and like what is your forward thinking strategy for the education and gaming?
Yeah, I think we're going to repave education like completely, especially now with stay at home, because yeah, all the education system are pretty much like ideologically it's bankrupt. Ideologically, it's kind of why on earth are you going to give your kids to some strangers that are paid minimal wage for like most of the waking hours in a day, and think that these strangers on minimal wage will do a good job making your kids a better person. So it's, I mean, it's all legacy. It's all coming up from our farming kind of pastoral past, that like, yeah, like families have to go work in fields and factories, and there is nobody to take care of kids. So of course, giving your kids to stranger, it's a great thing. It's awesome. It's much better if they kind of roam the streets without any supervision. But we're like 100 years away from that world right now, and especially kind of with COVID. Lots of people are now permanently at home, so there is like zero reason to give your kids to a stranger. So yeah, so I think the kind of education 2.0, it's kind of mix, it's kind of super empowered homeschooling. Is like 21st century tech tools meets homeschooling, that you have all this assistance from online system that like can basically that can save you from the grunt work of homeschooling, but it's up to parents what to do. And it's like, I mean, if it would have been my case, I would just basically order like shitload of chemistry test kits, like explosive, like, hey guys, today we're launching rockets, tomorrow we're exploding something. It's like, hey, you calculate Newtonian rules of motion for that rocket we're going to build. If the rocket explodes, you are grounded and you're not going to get explosive experiments next week. So it's all about software coding, solving equations, kind of basically getting practical result. Because by the way, I'm just describing my childhood. I was building rockets when I was 10, kind of, and I was solving equation of motions of these rockets that were surprisingly incorrect, according to my mom in many cases. So yeah, so I think it's like good homeschooling will be this like amazing amalgamation of you learn math, you learn practical computer engineering to deploy that math, then you use that math to calculate things in real world, which is mean physics, chemistry, experiment, kind of homemaking, building stuff, 3D printing. And then you have all these homeschooling resources that basically send you projects as like, hey, here's your subscribe to our rocket building vertical, or subscribe to our 3D printing vertical, subscribe to our cooking vertical, like molecular cooking, another awesome thing. So yeah, so I think that kind of education going to get reinvented from the ground up, and kind of there is so much toxic baggage we're getting from legacy education system. Is like speaking here from California, is like kind of teachers unions is kind of one of the biggest ends of whole legacy politics connected to teachers unions. That's one of the biggest political problems in California. And I think homeschooling might be just like to navigate it kind of extremely gracefully. That's kind of somewhat similar how like crypto does to banking. It's like, hey, you have so much legacy embedded legislation that is next to impossible to fix. So the easiest way to fix it is like we just bypass that vertical entirely. We're not going to use your system since it's beyond saving. We just like go around it and get far better results starting from scratch from first principles. So yeah, so it's that's what I personally looking for, because we need far more like scientifically educated, practical kind of tech lord citizens of the world who natively understand math, computer science, precise sciences, kind of, and as vocations they can like then personal preferences. Somebody likes history, somebody likes this or that, somebody likes games. Kind of they can do whatever they want for the humanitarian side, but you will have this kind of like basic package of kind of digital citizens of future digital humanity.
Okay, what is your ultra private look on the patch in gaming? What is the next big thing in gaming? And maybe it should be collaboration, DeFi education, or TikTok.
Yeah, well, I think a blanket statement is gaming going to make out like gangbusters in this environment, because like over past few months, I had so many friends I like never suspected of being in gaming. So it's like, I mean, I have people who I knew for over 10 years and they probably never played game in their life. And they all were like, oh, Max, it's like, what games should I play? Oh, this is like so interesting. It's like how I build gaming computer. So so I think there is like gaming as an industry going to get so many new customers that is just ridiculous. Like, yeah, that's a beautiful part of it. It's like if we look at intersection gaming and crypto, there is like huge, amazing field of crazy stuff you can do where gaming meets crypto. Then you look, gaming intersects with education. That's yet another huge, big stuff where kind of you can make massive impact. Finally, I think what's already happening is kind of gaming meets social network. That's already reality, because it's like Fortnite, Destiny. It's all these games are kind of at the roots. They are part social networks. They're social network with Red Dead Redemption Online. Like all these things, they have very strong social network elements, which is like, hey, that's where I meet my friends. That's where we do stuff together with my friend. And you know what? That's pretty much the only thing we can do in the real world is, like, for the most part, is like sit in houses or kind of visit parks in masks. Is not that kind of interesting. And here's all the cool activities we can do together socially with friends, kind of in all these gaming universes. So yeah, so I'm super bullish on this space. It's I would say there is so many awesome ideas you can take and run with it and kind of try to frame it into a startup that is like too many to count. But yeah, it's it's awesome time for people to start gaming companies.
It's same for the all gaming, like the entertainment and dating and food. What do you think about these industries?
Dating is definitely another interesting one, because dating needs to be reinvented for online only world. It's yeah, it's like in past life when you like, hey, let's meet for dinner, that was pretty much like zero cost proposition. It's like you're only wasting your evening. Right now, hey, let's meet for dinner, it's basically life-threatening proposition. It's like both parts is like, hey, I'm literally risking my life to meet with you for dinner. So I think no, it's like, yeah, it's real. It's kind of until we get COVID vaccine, that's for kind of, well, maybe less risk for young people, but young people do get.
In general, for the food industry, food should be not like the something healthy. It should be safe.
I think so at least well, my favorite industry is restaurants, because it's like kind of here in the Valley, all kind of like both dating and business development, it's all runs kind of around restaurants. I think that industry has the most need to be reinvented. And kind of like, if I would be a food entrepreneur right now, I would try to look into what I call online first restaurant, which is you kind of imagine you start restaurant from scratch, but you don't have tables, you don't have wait staff, you don't have physical location. The only thing you have is cooks and cloud kitchen. And you, like, if you build such company today from scratch, you probably will make lots of decisions kind of very differently than in any other kind of cases. So somebody who can figure out this online first kind of online delivery only restaurant, that's probably going to be model for restaurant industry kind of going forward.
Okay, and give like the short advice for the startups who have problems during COVID, like maybe like a 5-minute advice.
Yeah, I don't think I have silver bullet for that one. So I mean, my only 1 second advice will be like survive. Okay, and maybe one last questions before we wrap up.
Yeah, and like a short advice for the investors. What it should be like the post-COVID strategy?
I think for investors, it's kind of obvious. Kind of everybody knows that is kind of go all in on digital, go all in on kind of online digital, kind of post-COVID lifestyle. But all investors know that already.
Okay, thank you, Mike, for your time today, and see you on the next week.
Okay, thank you very much, guys. Love seeing everybody. Thank you, Banana, for organizing.